Was it
Literature.
literature? Yeah, very good. So second unit, literature, that is the languages, Indian languages and the literature that is available in Indian languages. And to be more specific, we might be discussing about the Sanskrit language, because Sanskrit language is the most ancient language in India, not only in India, but it is one of the ancient languages in the world. Okay, so Sanskrit language, uh, originally, or I'm saying Sanskrit is originally called that to in Sanskrit it is known as Sanskritam, but we are pronouncing it here because our mode of communication is English. We are saying it as Sanskrit, but this is not the correct pronunciation. Sanskritam is the correct pronunciation. So Sanskritam means సంస్కృతీకరించబడినటువంటిది, which is purified or standardized, right? Just a minute, friends. Yeah, so సంస్కృతీకరించబడినటువంటి లాంగ్వేజ్ లేదా భాష సంస్కృతం. That is the language which is well structured, uh, uh, well established, or you can say standardized. So Sanskrit, as I said, is the ancient language, and it's not only the ancient language; it is mother of all Indian languages. And many other languages which are being spoken in other countries, they also have some kind of relationship, some of the other kind of relationship with Sanskrit. So let us see what kind of literature is available in Sanskrit. Sanskrit, as I said, is the ancient language, and the ancient thought or ideas of people were also expressed using this language only, Sanskrit language only. So, according to Indian history or mythology, also traditionally and historically, it is believed that Vedas are the oldest literature that is available. You take any language, of course, Sanskrit is the oldest language, and the oldest idea of the people, that is Vedas, are expressed using Sanskrit only. We have four Vedas: Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharvana Veda. So this is the chronological order. I mean, say first comes Rig Veda, then comes the Yajurveda, then comes Samaveda and Atharvana Veda. So each Veda is again divided into four parts, or we can say each Veda consists of four parts. So these four parts are Samhita part, Brahmana, Aranyaka, and Upanishad. Upanishad being the last part, that is also known as Vedanta, the end part of Vedas. Vedanta means end of Veda. So what is considered as the end part of Veda? That is Upanishad. That's why they are also known as Upanishads. Now coming back to Vedas. So this Veda, what does it mean? As we have some meaning when I said Sanskrit or Sanskritam, సంస్కృతీకరించబడినటువంటిది. So do we have any meaning for this word Veda? Yes, we do have. Ved is actually the syllable from which this word Veda comes in Sanskrit. This Ved means knowledge. So is it really that the uh, ancient peoples or the rishis or sages knowledge is expressed in the form of Vedas? Yes. Uh, I don't know what traditionally people believe, but those who believe in science, those who believe in the religion, are those who have at least minimum knowledge of both the things, that is science and Vedas. They can say they are not different; they are one and the same. So whatever the people's or the sages' observations were, they have expressed their observations in the form of Veda. That too, it is said as, and said social scientists say this, but traditionally we have another belief. Traditionally, it is believed that the sages were meditating to know the ultimate truth. Then the nature or the God, whatever you call it, they that has given them the idea or the knowledge. They have shared this knowledge. So the rishis never claimed that this is the knowledge or this is what we have discovered. Traditionally, it is believed that God or the supreme soul or the nature, whatever you call it, it has directly given this knowledge to the sages, and the sages started spreading the word. But social scientists believe that uh, these Vedas are written by rishis like Brihat Samada, Vishwamitra, Bharadwaja, Vashishta. Many sages have written it. So they say that this part of Rig Veda is written by this rishi, this part is written by that rishi. Okay, that's also fine. But because traditionally it is believed that the Vedas are not uh, the ideas of rishis are Hindus, but the knowledge that they gain directly from God, so they have another name. These Vedas are also identified as Apaurusheyas. They have another name, as I said. Apaurusheya means the same, which has not come from any human being, which is directly delivered by God or nature or the supreme soul. Are you following me, students? Students, are you following me? Are you online?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Okay. So if you find it difficult to understand, just let me know. I'll try to explain slowly or in a different way. But I know this is not a rocket science. We are discussing general things, almost like history or social studies. But for sure, it is not history or social science. We are discussing culture. So don't hesitate to interrupt me if at all, if you want any, if you need any clarification, or if you have to add any point, right? Okay. So what happened is the Vedas are known as Apaurishayas because of the reason that they are not uh, the creation of any human being. They are delivered directly from God to sages as humans. So this is one part, and the other Vedas have also got the other name. They are also known as Shruti. Why Shruti? Because Shruti actually literally means sound. So why they are known as sound? Because they in ancient era we never had the practice of writing down things. So what people used to do is they used to actually the people who are interested in these Vedas or in this knowledge, they learned it from rishis. And rishis, because of their intellectual capacity or whatever you said, they remembered it and they used to recite it. And these students are the person whoever is interested in learning them. They used to sit near these rishis and they used to hear it. That's how they have learned it. And from them it is spread again. Whoever wanted to learn it, they came to the rishi, then they recited it, and the students have listened to it and they have started reciting it, and some after some time they have also remembered it. That's how the Vedas are in existence orally, based on sound. That's why they have the third name, Shruti. So all these Vedas are available in Sanskrit only. And it's not that only Vedas are available in Sanskrit. There are many other religious and non-religious or secular. Uh, I don't want to use that word secular. Religious and non-religious writings are there in Sanskrit. And so you will find philosophy, you will find mathematics, you will find Tarkashastra, Bhugola, Khagola, other Vijnana Shastra, that is sciences in Sanskrit. And you will also find historical writings, you will find just novels for the sake of entertainment. Okay, so like this, there are many diverse writings. The Sanskrit language is rich of literature. Let us see one by one. So, as I said, Vedas, they are also known as Apaurushayas and they are also known as Shruti. I've told you the reason as to how they have got this name, Apaurushaya and Shruti. Now, what is there in Veda? First of all, let us make it clear that Veda is not single book or compilation which can be termed as Veda. Or to be more, or to see the same thing in other words, Vedas can be, each Veda can be, let us say, Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sam Veda, Atharvana Veda. Each Veda can be divided into four parts. First part is Samhita part, which is in the form of poetry. So you will find all the suktas or hymns or shlokas or mantras, whatever name you want to give, you can. So it is full of poetry. Then second part is known as Brahmanas. Brahmanas are the explanatory notes, like whatever the sages have understood, whatever their observation is, they have explained it in the form of. So they try to know the ultimate truth, ultimate reality, that is God, and whatever they have understood, they explain it. So that talking about Brahmadhyana, that is Brahmana. Then comes Aranyaka. Few sages wanted to realize the reality or the truth, ultimate truth, or they wanted to know the God. So they went to forests and they started meditating. Then they have understood something. They gained some knowledge. Because this knowledge was gained in forest, so whatever they have explained, that got the name Aranyaka. Aranya means forest. And fourth one is Upanishad. This is the beautiful thing, or the important thing. Amma, fan, and this. Ikkada. So, yeah. Yeah, Upanishad. Upanishad is again a Sanskrit word which means sitting near the teacher. So people are pupil, that is student, who was interested in gaining knowledge. He used to sit near the teacher, that is their guru, and they used to do all the kinds of work, whatever is told by their guru. In Sanskrit, we call it Sushrusha. There is a saying in Sanskrit, Nacha Shushruteva Vachyam, which means until unless we please Guru by, it's not appeasement, but we have to listen to him, and whatever the Guru says, we have to follow it. It's for our better, this thing only. So, betterment only. So, we can, by observing him and by doing whatever, by following whatever he's saying, what we can do is we can prove that we are really interested in the knowledge. And then if we have that intellectual capacity and we have that moral values, then the guru, if he feels that we have all those qualities, then he used to share his knowledge with the pupil. So the gurus used to test them for two qualities, whether they have the knowledge or intellectual capacity, and whether they have the character. So if they find these two things in any person, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, region. Of course, in those days there was no other religion. So people used to come from different places, different parts, and they used to do this shishrusha. That means they used to follow the guru for years. Then they used to get the knowledge. So Upanishads are the explanations of teachers to their students. Sometimes, for example, if you see the Prashnopanishad, the students ask questions to the guru, and the guru answers these questions as to how life has formed, all those things. So it's all about a science. Let us talk about the Rigveda. As I said, the chronological order of Vedas is Rigveda comes first, then comes Yajurveda, then comes Samaveda, then comes Atharvaveda. So Rigveda consists of 1028 hymns or suktis or shlokas or mantras. These 1028 suktis or shlokas, uh, they are related to gods. Like few of them are, many of them are in praise of God Indra. Indra is the king of gods, and he protects the gods. So Indra, we can say that he is the protector of the people. So there were many hymns in praise of Indra. Then next, there were some other gods like Varuna, Agni, Marut, Surya, Bhumi, that is Prithvi. So all these, but mainly the forces of nature, that is are Varuna, Agni, Vayu, or Marut. So these gods were praised. This is what generally people think, but it's not correct. It's not. I would say it's not totally correct. Of course, there are hymns which are in praise of these gods, but if you try to understand the things and say, if you have the ability to read between the lines, then you will understand that those people, they were actually observing the nature, and whatever they have observed, whatever their observation is, they have explained the same. Okay, so this Rig Veda, as I said, is uh, it can be viewed in two ways. Traditionally, people say that these are mantras in praise of gods, and social scientists, if they understand it, they'll say that yes, there is some science in it. But if they don't understand, again they say it's trash because they don't believe God. Okay, so it depends on what's your ideology, what your perceptions are. Right, then comes Yajurveda. Yajas means yajna, or ritual, sacrifice. It's not sacrifice, but ritual is the most suitable word. So rituals, so this uh, Yajurveda talks about a variety of rituals. So students, are you listening?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me take attendance. I want to know how many of you are attentive or active. Okay, 61, 62,
Present, sir.
61 na 2.
61 present, sir.
ఓకే, అప్పుడే డల్ అయిపోయిందేనండి, ఇంకా టీ టైం కూడా కాలే కదా. 62, 63,
Present, sir.
64,
Present, sir.
65,
Present, sir.
66,
Present, sir.
67, 68,
68 present, sir.
69,
69 present, sir.
70,
Present, sir.
71,
Present, sir.
72,
Present, sir.
73, 74, 75, 76,
Present, sir.
76,
Yes, sir. 76.
okay, 77,
Present, sir.
78, 79, 80,
Present,
8,
sir. 80.
okay, 81, 82,
Present, sir. 82.
okay, 83,
Present, sir.
84, 85,
81 present, sir. 81 present, sir.
ఓకే. సో కొంచెం వినండి, అటెంటివ్గా ఉండండి. 85,
Present, sir.
అమ్మో నిద్ర వస్తుందా బాబు, ఎందుకంత డల్గా ఉన్నారు. 86, 87, 88, 89,
Present, sir. 89.
ఓకే, 90,
Yes, sir.
91, 90 ఉన్నారా, ఓకే, 91,
Present, sir.
92,
91.
ఓకే, 92,
Present, sir.
93,
Present, sir.
94, 95, 96, 97, 96 97 ఏ నెంబర్ ప్రజెంట్, 95 left. Okay, so 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101,
Present,
10,
sir. 101.
101, okay, 102,
Present, sir.
103, 104,
Present, sir. 103.
okay, 104, 105,
Present, sir.
106,
105.
okay, 106,
Present, sir. 106.
107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 16, okay, 115, 116, 116, 117, 118,
117. Present, sir.
Present, sir. 118
117,
present, sir.
118, okay,
119 present, sir.
okay,
119, sir.
okay, 120,
Sir, 67 present, sir.
67. ఇప్పటిదాకా ఏం చేస్తున్నారండి?
Sir, I was waiting. Net problem unde sir. Left time only join in.
Okay, no problem. So, yeah. So, Yajurveda, generally people say that it talks about, it gives you information with regard to the various yajnas or yagas. But Those who have understood the hymens of Yajurveda, they say that it also speaks about mathematics. It speaks about various shapes, that is triangle, rectangle, circle, semicircle, half circle. 78 left again. Okay, 73. Why people are leaving? Okay, they have not given attendance and they are leaving also. Okay, so yeah, Yajurveda actually explains about how to perform a ritual. It's not just about how to perform a ritual, but how to construct the uh, stage or fire altar. For example, in some rituals, they have to construct the fire altar in the triangle shape, or in semicircle shape, or in a full circle shape, or in rectangle, square, like that. So they used to tell the length, breadth, and depth of the fire altar, how it should be. So it's all about mathematics, if we understand it. They have talked about finding out the area of a triangle, and they have talked about finding of or preparing a circle with the same area as that of a triangle. Let us say there's a side A, there are three sides. So generally, not generally, there will be three sides for a triangle. So let us suppose one side is A, so the other side is B, and the other side is C. Now that is the using these A, B, C, we can calculate area. Then they used to say how to construct a circle with same area of this triangle ABC, or how to construct a square which will have same area of triangle ABC. So that's how they have talked about geometry, mathematics. Then comes Samaveda. Samaveda has got 1875 hymens, out of which 75 are original, and the remaining hymens, that is 1800 hymens, are taken from either Rigveda or Yajurveda or some other Atharvana Veda. So, what is mentioned in Samaveda is Samaveda talks about how to pronounce these hymens. So, it is giving you 16,000 combinations. Okay, that means we can say that this Samaveda is the originating point of Indian classical music. Now you can imagine giving 16,000 ragas or 16,000 permutations or combinations, I should say. Okay. Then Atharvana Veda is the fourth Veda. In the beginning, people used to say that, or traditionally it is believed that there were only three Vedas. That's why we have a word Tri Veda. So in the beginning there were only three Vedas, but as time passed on, then comes the fourth Veda, that is Atharvana Veda. Atharvana Veda, some people say that it is black magic, some people say it's just magic, it consists of magical spells, as some people say that it is science, some people say that it is knowledge, body of knowledge which a Purohit must know. Purohit who is working for a king must know. Why? Because with these magical spells or black magic, he can defeat and say he can help the king in defeating their enemies. He can make sure his king's success or victory in the war. That's what people used to say. But if you study it, if you understand it, then we can say that it is the originating point of modern day science. They had some knowledge of chemistry or physics, some subjects, so they have showed these things to general public. Then they have thought it is some kind of magic. But no, it's also science. Still, people are doing research on it. They have to understand many things. Then the true colors will come out. We'll understand the true nature of Vedas. So these are four Vedas, and what is mentioned in these Vedas is like this. So, is it that the Sanskrit language consists of only religious literature? No, in the beginning only I have said that it's not only religious literature, but non-religious literature is also available in Sanskrit language. Can anyone tell me, is there any such literature, any such book? Students, I am asking you. 115, are you online? Yeah. So do you have any idea as to is there any literature which is not religious in Sanskrit? And this question is not only to 115. I'm asking all the students. Anyone can tell me. 93. 93. Are
Yes,
you
sir.
online? Yeah. Do you have any idea?
Yes, sir.
If you have, just tell
No,
me.
sir.
No. Okay. 69. Should I call one by one, or will you just tell me?
Sir, Mahabharata.
Very good. Mahabharata. But is it a history? I'm saying, is it not religious Mahabharata? Is it not related to our Hindu religion? Of course, it is related to Hindu religion because we are talking about God Krishna in Mahabharata. We talk about God Krishna, but it is considered as itihasa. What does it mean, itihasa? Itihasa means, it's a Sanskrit word again. It means it has happened so in the past. So we don't consider this Ramayana and Mahabharata as just a story. We believe that they have happened in the past, and we have got many evidences also, archaeological proofs also. Right? So we have Ramayana, we have Mahabharata. Ramayana is written by whom? Valmiki. Right? And Mahabharata?
Vyasa.
Vyasa. And science and social scientists believe that this Ramayana and Mahabharata, these two itihasas, which are, and said the way they are available now. Originally, they were not like that. They were very short. But people have added many shlokas and many small stories, many upakyanas. That's how this Ramayana and Mahabharata have become very huge. That's what generally social scientists say. But we don't believe that. We traditionally what we believe is Ramayana is written by Valmiki, and this is he is the only person. And say it's not authored by many, but the author of Ramayana is Valmiki. And we also believe that. Oh, 1 minute, please. Yeah, so traditionally it is believed that Vyasa, Maharshi Veda Vyas has written, that means he was reciting the poems, and Lord Ganesha was listening to him, and he was writing the poems. That is what we traditionally believe. But again, social scientists say that Mahabharata is not like this. That means it is now available in 1 lakh poems. Social scientists say that it was very small in the beginning, but people liked it, and they have kept on adding small stories or poems to that Mahabharata. So that's how it has become huge, this huge. And they say that it's not originally written by, I'm say, in whatever form it is available now. This is not written by Vedavyasa. Whatever Vedavyasa wrote, it is very small in length, or what you can say, the number of shlokas were less. But people they added few other shlokas. Now we cannot differentiate as to which shloka is actually written by Vedavyasa and which are added after 1,000 years or 500 years. But Ramayana and Mahabharata were also available in oral form in the beginning. People used to, as they used to learn Vedas, in the same way they used to by heart these poems, and they used to recite it. People who were interested, they used to listen it, and they used to recite it and by heart it and remember it. But somewhere around 2nd century BC to 2nd century AD, in between these 400 years, people, for various reasons, they started writing down the things, and the material was also available to them to write down the things. So that's when the Vedas, Upanishads, and Itihasas, people started writing down. That's what historians say, or social scientists say. Then there are many other religious and non-religious literature in Sanskrit. Like we have Ashtadasha Puranas. Ashtadasha means 8 after 10. That is 18 Puranas. These 18 Puranas are also written by Veda Vyasa. What is a Purana? What is the difference between Ramayana and Puranas? So Ramayana has happened actually. Mahabharata has happened actually. So they are given the status of Itihasa. Okay. And Puranas are those, there is a shloka which speaks about the qualities or characteristics of Puranas. Okay. So I'll just read out that poem for you and I'll explain as to what it is. Sargasya Pratisargasya Vamsho Manvantaranicha Vamshanucharitam Cheti Puranam Panchalakshana. This is what is said about Puranas. Are you following me, students?
Sir.
So, do you understand anything? Sargasya Pratisargasya Vamsho Manvantaranicha Vamshanucharitam Cheti Puranam Panchalakshana. Can anyone understand anything from these words? Students, very good. So that's how you people are listening in the classes, right? Good. So you are going to perform well in the exams. Okay. So these are the 5 qualities: Sargasya, Pratisargasya, Vamsho, Manvantaranicha, Vamshanucharitam. What is Sarga? What is Pratisarga? Sarga is creation of 5 elements. Pratisarga is creation of a life with the permutations and combinations of these 5 elements. So in any writing, if you find Sarga, that is creation of 5 elements, Pratisarga, that is creation of life, various life forms, and Vamsho Manvantaranicha, speaking about the gods and their lineage, or the Manu and his lineage. Uh, what are we called in Telugu? What are we humans are called in Telugu? ఏమంటారండి? 92, I couldn't hear you clearly.
మానవులు.
యా, మనుషులు లేదా మానవులు. ఈ పేరు ఎలా వచ్చిందో తెలుసా? Do you know how this got this name? Because it is
No, sir.
believed, yeah, because it is believed that we are descendants of Manu. Manu is the first person, the first Prajapati, from whom we are the descendants. So these human beings, that is why are known as Manushya or Manavulu. So if any writing explains about Manu and his lineage, and Sargasya, Pratisargasya, Vamsho Manvantaranicha, Vamshanucharitam Cheti. If that writings also speaks about great kings and their lineage or dynasties and their lineages, then also it can be called a Purana. So it should have 5 qualities: Sargasya, Pratisargasya, Vamsho, Manvantaranicha, Vamshanucharitam. Sarga is creation of 5 elements, as I said. Pratisarga is creation of life forms, various kinds of life forms, but with the permutations and combinations of the first 5 elements. What are the 5 elements? Panchabhutalu అంటే తెలుసా అండి?
Yes, sir.
ఏంటి చెప్పండి? అంటే తెలవాల్సిన అవసరం ఏం లేదు, తెలియకుంటే తప్పేం కాదు, తెలిస్తే మంచిదే. సో దయ్యాలు, భూతాలు, కాశ్మోరా ఇలాంటివి ఏం కాదండి. పంచభూతాలు ఇస్ పృథ్వీ, వ్యాపస్, తేజో, వాయుర్, ఆకాశాలు. పృథివీ అంటే భూమి, దట్ ఈస్ ఎర్త్. ఆపస్, దట్ ఈస్ వాటర్. Tejo, that is light. Vayu, that is air. Akasha, that is space. Now you see, this is the science. You take any life form, that is the combination of these 5 elements. So first of all, a writing, if it speaks about the creation of 5 elements and the various life forms in the different permutations and combinations of these 5 elements, then Vamsho Manvantaranicha, that should speak about Vamsha of, say, the lineage of gods or great sages. Then Manvantaranicha, that is Manu and his descendants. Then Vamshanucharitam Cheti, it should also speak about the great dynasties and its lineage. So by reading Puranas, you will find the history as to who ruled India and after whom again who ruled. Evaru tarvata evaru rule chesaru. I said you will get many names, many dynasties which are also there in history. Now if you compare both the Puranas and history, you will find that at least 60-70% is same. There is difference, but the difference is only 30%. So you can now say whether our Puranas are correct or wrong. Is it correct to believe our Puranas, or is it waste? So that is the difference between Purana and Itihasa. Okay. So we have Vedas, we have Upanishads, we have Itihasas, we have Puranas. And I said, how many Puranas are there? In the beginning only I said we have students.
Yes, sir.
How many Puranas
18,
are there?
sir.
Yeah, very good. At least one is listening. Do you know the names? Brahma Purana, Shiva Purana, Vishnu Purana, Linga Purana, Garuda Purana, Brahmanda Purana, Kurma Purana, Markandeya Purana, Matsya Purana, Narada Purana, Bhagavata Purana, Bhavishya Purana,
Bhagavata Purana.
yeah, Bhavishya Purana, Paraha Purana, Vayu Purana, Agni Purana, Brahma Vaivasvata Purana, Brahma Vaivarta Purana and Guranta. Some people pronounce it in that way also. Padma Purana and Skanda Purana. These are the 18 Puranas. And it's not only Puranas. We have penal code also. What is penal code? Any idea? You have studied Constitution last semester. Any idea what penal code is? And you don't need to study Constitution for this. Penal code is something which decides as to what should be the penalty if someone does something wrong. Getting my point? Students,
Yes, sir.
yeah. మీకు 5 minutes బ్రేక్ ఇచ్చి అందరు టీ దాకా వస్తారండి, కొంచెం యాక్టివ్ అవుతారేమో. So Smriti, in Sanskrit we call these Smritis, which are to be remembered. Smriti is remembering the things, our memory. So what should we remember? We should remember this is the right thing which we have to do and this is the wrong thing which we should not do. If we do that, if we commit that mistake, then we will be penalized. That is why they have got the name Smriti. The equivalent word in English is penal code, as I said. Okay, so it is these. We have many Smritis like Manu Smriti, Yajnavalkya Smriti, Narada Smriti, Parashara Smriti. Okay, so these Smritis, they talk about as to what is good, what practices are good, and what we should not do, what the humans are not allowed to do, and what if they do something wrong, what is the penalty or punishment for that. So all these things are mentioned in Smritis, and the Manusmriti is for a present day, but we people don't believe it. Many of us, they don't believe it. Okay, so as I said, we have many Smritis which are to be remembered and followed. It's not only Hindu religious literature available in Sanskrit, but we also have Buddhist literature, Jain literature. It's also available in Pali and of course in Sanskrit also. Okay. So we have other religions also, like Buddhism, Jainism. They have also used Sanskrit. And Sanskrit, for Sanskrit language, Gupta period is known as the golden age, golden period. Why? Because these kings have encouraged poets. They encouraged poets and poetry, and so that is literature. Creation of literature was encouraged by these kings. Gupta period. For example, Kalidasa is a famous poet of Sanskrit language of Gupta period on. So can anyone tell me as to what did he write, what his writings are? One name, students. Okay, rule number 117.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Do you know any? Do you know at least the name? Have you ever heard the name Kalidasa?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so can you name any writing? Kalidasa's novel, prose, poetry.
No, sir, I have no idea.
Very good. That's fair enough. Anyone else? 101, 76, 66.
No idea, sir.
No idea. Okay. So Kalidasa is really a famous poet. You might have heard these names: Abhignana Shakuntalam, Megha Sandesham. Actually, it's Megha Dhuta, not Megha Sandesham. Megha Dhuta, Ritu Samharam, Kumara Sambhavam. I'm sure that you might have heard this name at least, Abhignana Shakuntalam. You never heard it? Okay. Raghuvansham. There are many novels like things. He wrote many plays. Okay. The famous one are Abhignana Shakuntalam, Raghuvansham, Meghadutam. Okay. Vikram Orvashiyam, Malavika Agnimitram. So some of these writings like Malavika Agnimitram is a historic writing. That means he writes about a king and his love story. Malavika and Agnimitra. Agnimitra was the king. Malavika was um, a rich businessman's daughter. So this is a love story of a king and businessman's daughter. So there are these kind of stories are there from the beginning. Then there was another poet. There were many actually. Vishakadatta. He wrote Mritchakatikam. Mudra Rakshasam. Devi Chandragupta is again a historic novel. He writes about Chandragupta and his marital life or those things. So we have many writings, not only religious, but we have non-religious writings like Kalhana's Rajatarangi, wherein he explained about the beauty of Kashmir. So Harisena was another writer. Bana, Bhatta, Dandi, Bhasa. There are many. It's not that we have only this kind of novels or those things, but we have other literature. Can anyone let me know? Do we have any other kind of literature? That means any other book which will not discuss the historic books or historic events, or which will not discuss about the religion. So, can you name any book in Sanskrit? At least, do you believe that there are literature which explains other things like any other science?
Yes, sir.
Can you name it?
I don't know the names.
Pardon?
I don't know the names, sir.
Okay. So don't tell me the name, but what book do you know? And say you can just explain as to what is written in it. For example, I said Bhartrihari, a famous poet, he wrote a Shatakam. What is Shatakam? Like Vemana Shatakam. There will be 108 poems, and he'll explain something good, which is useful to society, good for the society. So in the same way, Bhartrihari Shatakas, that is Shataka, which is not historic, which is not religious. Okay, so is there any other text or writing which will not discuss religion or history? 81, 92, 119, 91,
Don't know,
118.
sir.
Don't know. You know, but you are not trying. I'll tell you. Have you ever heard about Charaka Samhita? Tell me whether you have heard about it or not. Charaka Samhita.
No, sir.
Pardon?
No, sir.
Charaka Samhita pair is I wonder. Okay. So Charaka Samhita is a book on medicine, Ayurveda. Sushruta Samhita. Have you heard it? It's also a book on medicine. But this Sushruta Samhita talks about surgeries. Charaka Samhita talks about diagnosis and medicine. Right? Have you ever heard? Of course, if you have not heard Charaka Samhita, there is no chance that you will be hearing this name. Manasollasa. Have you heard this name, Manasollasa? No. So
Yes, sir.
Manasollasa is a book. 800 years ago it is written, and in this book, the author explains hundreds of dishes, vegetarian and non-vegetarian dishes. What are the ingredients? How to cook? Can you imagine? 800 years ago, a person, or at least 500-600 years ago, a person writing a book wherein he is not explaining a philosophy or religion, anything. Just simply explaining dishes, variety of dishes, sweets, dishes. That rich is Sanskrit language. And you have many other books like Aryabhatiyam. Have you ever heard his name, Aryabhata? Aryabhata.
Yes, sir.
What is he famous for?
Mathematics.
Yeah. Okay. So he wrote a book on mathematics and celestial bodies. Aryabhatiyam. Famous book. So we have many books on literature, books on grammar. Panini wrote a book on grammar, Sanskrit grammar, 8th century BC, before Christ. Now you can imagine how rich or how standardized this language is. The person writing the grammatical rules of Sanskrit, 800 years before the birth of Christ. Now you can imagine how old this language is and how developed it is. So we have grammar books, we have religious books, we have medicine books on medicine, we have Tarka Shastra, we have Niti Shastra, we have uh, Tarka Shastra is law, Niti Shastra is what to do, what is good, what is bad, what to do, what not to do. Penal code, as I said, Dharma Shastra, Smriti. So there are variety of writings. We have simple stories like Panchatantra. It is actually in Sanskrit. We have books on many other things, like you take Yoga Vasishtam. Yeah, you take Patanjali's Mahabhashyam. It's a commentary on the Panini Sashtadhyayi grammar book. We have Ardhashastra. What is Ardhashastra? At least you might have heard this name. Who wrote Ardhashastra? Who is the author of Ardhashastra? Roll number 80. Are you online? 103.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Chanakya.
even yeah, very good. Chanakya wrote it. Then what did he mention in Ardhashastra? People generally say it's economics. Ardhika Shastra. Wrong. This book talks about many things like public administration, how the taxation system should be in a country.
Economic policy.
Not just economics, but it also talks about many other things, as I said. People think that it's economics. It's not economics. It talks about how to recruit ministers. Chanakya talked about a written examination, testing the persons before recruiting them as ministers. For different portfolios, different exam. Can you imagine? He talked about taxation, how to tax people. Now the government of India and state governments, they are collecting taxes from us. He talked about all such taxes and in a sophisticated way 2500 years ago. He talked about how a king's daily routine should be. He talked about natural resources. That means you will find public administration, political science, taxation, recruitment procedures. All these things are there in Ardhashastra. So Sanskrit language is really rich. You have Vedas, you have Upanishads, you have Itihasas, you have Puranas, you have other literature which is related to other religions like Buddhism, Jainism, Charvaka philosophy is also there in Sanskrit. You have Puranas, as I said, you have Smritis, you have novels, historic novels. We have treatise, commentaries on various books. We have shatakas, we have stories, we have novels, you have books on science, you have books on mathematics, you have books on law. This is the variety of Sanskrit language. So in my next class we will be discussing about other languages like Telugu, Kannada. Do you have any knowledge? Anyhow, we have 5 more minutes, so we can discuss Telugu language. Do you know the history of Telugu language? And say, how did this name Telugu came into usage? Or who is the first poet in Telugu? Any idea? Students, any idea? Even I am asking you.
No, sir.
No. So actually this word Telugu is derived from, I'm saying linguistics speak about different things, but one of those things is this area is known as Trilinga Desha. There are 3 Shiva temples. In between these 3 temples, we people are living. So because of this reason, this area is known as Trilinga Desha. Okay. So the language which is spoken in Trilinga Desha, in a flux of time, has become Telugu. Trilinga nunchi mellaga Telugu అయిపోయింది. That's how this name Telugu. We are using this word Telugu. So this Telugu language is one of the richest languages. Of course, it's not that ancient because Sanskrit is ancient and Tamil is also very ancient, but we are younger by 500 years. So, do we have any literature in Telugu? Is Telugu rich of literature? తెలుగు భాషలో ఏమైనా పుస్తకాలు అవి రాయబడ్డాయా? అది నా క్వశ్చన్. లిటరేచర్ ఏమైనా ఉందా? I hope all of you, I'm saying your mother tongue is Telugu. Am I right? మీ మాతృభాష అందరిది తెలుగేనా?
Yes, sir.
దానికి కూడా అంత ఆలోచిస్తున్నారేమండి? దాంట్లో కూడా ఆలోచించాలా మీ మదర్ టంగ్ తెలుగేనా కదా అని చెప్పడానికి. సో తెలుగు గురించి ఏమైనా ఐడియా ఉందా? తెలుగులో ఫస్ట్ కవి ఎవరు? ఆది కవి అని ఎవరిని అంటారు తెలుసా?
Nannaya.
వెరీ గుడ్, బతికించాను. Nannaya is known as Adi Kavi. Why? Because he himself said that I don't have any knowledge of my predecessors writing any book in Telugu. So he created the grammar for Telugu and he wrote a book. But recent findings are saying that there is some other Shaivite poet. So he wrote some book before Nannaya, but still research is going on. So till now we can discuss till the research is over and something comes out. We can say that Nannaya is Adi Kavi, and he has also mentioned in his Andhra Mahabharata that I am the first poet. Okay, so he is the person who created all this grammar, writing, and he started. He was requested by a king to translate the Mahabharata, which is originally there in Sanskrit, written by Vedavyasa, which is also known as Jaya Samhita. Mahabharata is also known as Jaya Samhita. Okay, so this Mahabharata, the king Rajaraja Narendra wanted Nannaya to translate into Telugu. So Nannaya started translation, but he couldn't finish off. Only, this Mahabharata is translated into 18 chapters, which are known as Parval, 18 Parvas are chapters. He couldn't do much, only first chapter half he did and he died. Then comes Tikkana. Tikkana wrote almost, Nannaya wrote first, second and third half, I think. So first chapter, second chapter and half of third chapter. Then he died. Then Tikkana came and he wrote all the remaining chapters, 13 chapters. 13 chapters only. So then comes Erra Pragada, who is also famously known as Errana. He wrote the remaining half, which is left by Nannaya. Right? So 15 by Tikkana, 2.5 by Nannaya, and half by Errana. That's how they have completed the translation of Sanskrit Mahabharata into Telugu, Andhra Mahabharata. That's why these three poets are known as Kavitrayam. Okay. Following? ఏమైనా అర్థమవుతుందా చెప్పేది?
Yes, sir.
Simple. I am talking about Telugu language and its literature. So this famous trio, Telugu trio, are known as Kavitrayam of Telugu. And after them, many other kinds of literature, as I'm saying, you can see other different kinds of literature in Telugu also. Not only religious literature, not only itihasas, but many writers have contributed for the development and growth of this Telugu literature. But let us not discuss all those things. Let us discuss about, anyhow, you all know what kind of literature is available in modern day. Let us discuss about the medieval era. So Vijayanagara Empire, as the Gupta period is golden period for Sanskrit literature, in the same way, Vijayanagara period or Vijayanagara Empire is golden period for Telugu literature. Okay, so this Vishnudevaraya, the famous king of Vijayanagara, he was really a person of multifaceted personality. He was not only a good leader and a good administrator, but he was also a king who was having much interest in poetry. He himself wrote a book by name Amukta Malyada. It's also a great book. And of course, still some people say that it's not originally written by Krishnadevaraya. Somebody wrote and he has, what should I say, named Krishnadevaraya as the author. But I don't think it is true. But anyhow, it is generally most of 90%, 95% people believe that it is Krishnadevaraya who authored this book Amukta Malyada. And there used to be Ashtadigajas, or 8 famous poets in his court. Do you know any name from these Ashtadigajas, or 8 famous poets of
Tenali
Vijayanagara?
Ramakrishna.
Very good. I was expecting this answer. At least you should know Tenali Ramakrishna's name. So Tenali Ramakrishna was one among those 8 great poets. There were many others like Allasani Peddana, the senior most and the famous one. Then there is another famous one, Dhurjati. Okay, then Nandi Timmana, Madaya Gari Mallana, Ayala Raju Ramabhadra Kavi, Pingali Surana. This guy Pingali Surana, he wrote a book. I'll tell you the name. Raghava Pandaviyam. Yeah. Raghava Pandaviyam. Do you understand anything by the name Raghava Pandaviyam? Students, do you understand anything by this name Raghava Pandaviyam? At least, do you understand anything? Some పాండవులు అనే పేరు ఏమైనా అర్థమవుతుందంటే రాఘవ అంటే రాముడు అని, పాండవీయం అంటే పాండవులు అని. సో ఒకటే స్టోరీలో he wrote and say in a single poetry he conveyed 2 stories. One is Ramayana and the other one is Mahabharata. So if you study it, if you read that poetry, I don't know whether it is poetry or prose, but if you read that, you will understand both the stories. Now you can imagine his intellectual capacity. Okay, so like this, people have tried different things. We have different kinds of Ramayanas. Who is the first lady, first woman to write Ramayana in Telugu? Telugu is your mother language. You should know these things minimum. If you somewhere, let us say after doing your BTech, if you join any IIT for your MTech, or if you join a big company, then people will be talking great or boasting about their culture, their language, their mother tongue. Then you should also know few things, great things or good things about your culture, your country, your language, your city. Do you know that if you go to SSB interviews, they'll also ask you about your hometown, its population, its unique things, our specialities. So you should know these things, minimum. Molla is the first woman poet to write Ramayana. There are many Ramayanas, Deepaka Ramayanam, Champu Ramayanam. Right? So we have great authors, great poets in the court of Sri Krishna Deva Raya. They are known as Ashtadiggaja because they were 8 in number. Okay, so this is about Telugu literature and Sanskrit literature. We'll discuss about other languages like Kannada, then Tamil, Marathi, Urdu in my next classes. So students, remember that for your first internal, I'll be considering first unit and second unit, and by tomorrow end of the day, I'll share the full notes. I'll keep it in the Google Classroom. You can download it from there. You can check it from there. All the notes will be made available in your Google Classroom. Okay, and once again, I'm reiterating that I'll be giving questions from first and second units in your first internal examination. You will get questions from your first and second units. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So,
sir.
yeah, be prepared. I'll share the notes by tomorrow end of the day. So thank you, class, and I'm open to questions. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. Otherwise, I'll conclude the session. And once again, I am reiterating, don't hesitate to ask questions. If you don't understand